Let's start a new C# project and show you some more examples that can be done with variables. We'll start Visual Studio Express and go File, New Project, and the console application of C# will be saved in the Joe's to Pros folder on the C drive, and we'll call this project CH2B. Click OK. And the project comes up with the main method in place. All of our code will go between the curly braces of the main method. Let's create two integer variables, int num1 and num2. Notice I can declare two variables on one line if each variable name is separated with a comma and uses the same data type. Now I will say int the sum and the product. Product is a fancy way of saying the result of two numbers that were multiplied, and sum is a way of saying the result of two numbers that were added together. Let's set num1 to be equal to 3, and let's set num2 to be equal to 5. Now let's say the sum is equal to num1 plus num2. And we'll say the product is equal to num1 times num2. We should display these answers out. Let's go console, right line, and we'll put the sum in the first one, which we expect to be 8 because 3 plus 5 is 8. And below that we'll say console.writeLine, and we'll display the product, which we expect to be 15 because 3 times 5 is 15. Let's pause our program at the end with a console.readLine. Let's run this to test. We get our 8 and our 15. Let's be a little bit more descriptive about what those numbers mean and where they came from. In our console WriteLine, let's put a set of quotes and a comma. In those quotes, let's type the sum of the first variable and the second variable is equal to the third variable. Now we need to supply it three variables in order. The first one will be num1. The second one will be num2. And the third one will be the sum. Let's run and test the code. There, a little more meaningful. The sum of 3 and 5 is 8. Let's do the same thing for the second WriteLine. Put a set of quotes and a comma. In the double quotes, we will type the product of the first variable and the second variable is equal to the third variable. Now we will make sure num1 is the first variable listed, num2 is the second variable listed, and the product is the third variable listed. Let's run and test this code. There, on the second line you see the product of 3 and 5 is 15. Now notice a couple of things we have not seen before. Let's look at these lines. Notice we have three placeholders, 0, 1, and 2. You can use as many of these as you need. The numbers they come from will correspond to the order of the variables listed after the string, separated by commas. So in our example, this 0 refers to num1, this 1 refers to num2, and this 2 refers to the sum. But you don't have to put the variable placeholders in that order. So let me copy and paste the line below and change the order of the 0 and the 1. Notice the first line. It says the sum of 3 and 5 is 8, but the next line says the sum of 5 and 3 is 8. You do not have to use the values in the order you define them. You can use 0, 1, and 2 corresponding to these variables, but let's close out of this program and let's examine this in another way. For example, let's copy and paste this line and let's completely reverse the sentence and say the sum of, and then the total, which is variable placeholder 2, came from the first number and the second number, or variable placeholder 0 and 1. As we run it, notice it says the sum of 8 came from 3 and 5. What if you wanted to add or multiply numbers other than 3 and 5? We could actually make the program ask the user for the values each time the program runs. Let's open Visual Studio and create a new project. Make sure we're in C Joes to Pros, and let's call this project CH2C. Let's type this between the opening and closing curly braces of the main method. Let's type int num1, comma, num2, comma, the sum, end it with a semicolon. And now we'll type console and then write, and in the set of parentheses for the write method, we'll put a set of double quotes, and inside of there, we'll type enter the first number with a colon, and then drop down a line. And let's set the variables. Let's say number 1 is equal to, and then we'll say console dot readline. Now this is to capture the user's input, but let's try it out. We get an error. Why are we getting this? What if the user didn't type a number? What if they typed a name or a non-numeric character? What if they put hello or hello world instead of 5? Hello will not fit into an int. Console.readline returns a string, and we want an integer. If you know the user will type in a number, then it's okay to turn these keystrokes into an integer. To do this, let's use the parse method of the int32 built-in .NET class. To do this, let's type int32.parse, and then put the console.readline method inside the set of parentheses for the parse method. And let's run it. And as you can see, it runs without error. We can enter in a 4. That's not too exciting of an output because we haven't shown anything yet. So let's finish the code by getting the second number from the user input and then showing all the results in a write line. Okay, let's set up our user input. Let's start off with the console write method. So type console.write with a set of parentheses, and we're using write because we want the input to be there without dropping a line first. So in the parentheses, in a set of double quotes, we will add a comment for the user that says, enter the second number, colon. And now we need to capture that. So we'll say num2 is equal to int32.parse, and in the parentheses of the parse method, whatever the user typed in. And that is coming to us through a console.readline method. Now to make it interesting, let's say the sum is equal to the num1 plus the num2, and we will use a console.writeline to show the results in one sentence. So put console.writeline, and in the set of parentheses, put a set of double quotes, and let's put in the first variable placeholder plus the second variable placeholder is equal to the third variable placeholder. Now, we just need to put in num1, num2, and num3 to feed the variable placeholders with their values. Now, to make sure the program doesn't run too fast, let's end it with a console.readline, paren, semicolon. Let's run and test this code. Okay, it seems to be running. It's asking for the first number, and we'll enter it as 4. The second number will be 6, and there we go. It prints out 4 plus 6 equals 10. Time for Chapter 2.2, Skill Check 1. Take a moment to pause this video and challenge yourself to do this skill check. Now attempt to do Skill Check 2. Now attempt to do Skill Check 3. And that will wrap up Chapter 2.2 on variables with input. The next item, Chapter 3.1, Decisions with If and Else.